Namaste. Last night we had a very potent meeting. The writing group, I think, experienced something very powerful. Those of you who were there, would you agree? I think it's important to understand it because I think it gives us an insight into the transformational process as a whole. It was a kind of a microcosm. And I think it demonstrates that the gunas that we often talk about in yogic psychology, tamas, raja, sattva, are not primary qualities at all. They're, I would say, tertiary qualities. They are a result of something that happens at a deeper level, which the modern psychoanalytic thinker Wilfred Bion, well, he said that the soul is generally in one of two states. It's either in a state of reverie or in a state of evacuation. The reverie is a state in which it is able to process, and the evacuation is when it's just got to get it out. Okay? But then what that implies is there's something deeper than both of those. What is it that you're evacuating? Well, clearly from our perspective, one is always trying to evacuate vexation. And so the two principles that really underlie this are, I would say, love and vexation. The ancient Greek philosophers, notably Heraclitus, referred to these two principles as love and strife. But this has always been known. So love gives you the ability to go into a reverie state, whereas the absence of love means you have no choice but to try to evacuate by acting out, by screaming at somebody, or by creating a symptom of some kind. But love gives you the opportunity to process. So I think the poetry meditation that we did last night was a great example of a reverie state in which we brought love and strife together. Okay? We loved our own strife. And through that act, we transformed it, not into an evacuated vexation that we handed over to somebody else, but into an aesthetic product, an interpretation of our strife from a place of beauty. And we created a manifestation of beauty that could be shared with others. That transformed the irritation into a pearl, you could say. And so I think it's an archetypal kind of meditation in which we were able to deal with something that was unbearable or difficult within us and transform it through the power of our own love. Now the question is why we can't do that all the time. Why it's only on special occasions when we can come together specifically to write a poem that we can manifest that power. And I would say, in alignment with Bion, that it's because in childhood we perhaps did not receive enough training in how to do that. So there was either love when our mother was in a state of concern and reverie about us, and then tried to understand, oh, poor little baby, what's wrong? Let me try to figure out and give you a solution. Is it this? Is it that? And in which that concern that would encompass the child would be the role model of a loving way of dealing with anxiety or pain or depression or some kind of a situation that could not be resolved by the child. And taking that auxiliary mind and heart as present around one, protecting one, one then had a digestive capacity for otherwise undigestible experiences. But when that didn't occur sufficiently, then what would happen would be the vexation itself would be encapsulated. And it would become something that could no longer deal with any pain. It was already fed up, and that part of the psyche then could only react by getting rid of it. And it would be hypersensitive then to any extra kind of tension or stress that could not be accommodated in one's mind. And so we could say that the strife or the vexation is really an absence of love. In Christian terms, privatio boni, the absence of goodness, right? Which is the source of the existence of the devil, right? The devil doesn't actually exist on its own, but it's as if it exists because of some place there was a lack of God's presence reaching the soul. And so if we have that kind of a place within us that is vexed, we must bring it into the space of love. And if we can connect sufficiently with that energy of divine love and encompass all of our vexation, all of our ego identity with a loving presence, we can resolve all of those vexations. Whether we produce poetry out of it, we will produce a life of grace, of beauty, of peace and harmony. And it is the dedication to that that enables us to channel all of those energies that are stuck at the lower chakras and want to act out in terms of aggression and desire and fear to become transformed into wisdom and empowerment that serves the whole planet, all being, all life, that serves God ultimately. But we have to reach first that place in which our own ego, you could say, is surrounded, encompassed, and permeated by this energy of love. The ego itself won't be able to achieve it, because the ego is this hardened shell of vexation. But we can place around the ego this energy of love that gradually softens it and dissolves it into this higher presence that we call God. And that's what we're doing in meditation. We're surrendering to this presence that we recognize has unconditional love for us. And by accepting that and trusting that presence, without the preconceptions that no, God's love will be for someone else, not for me. God plays favorites. God isn't going to come into this heart. And through those preconceptions, we block that energy. Or we're too angry at God and say, I don't want it now. I didn't get it when I was a kid. Now it's too late. We can put the blocks in the way. But if we allow it to come in, then that energy has the power of resolving all of the issues in our unconscious and translating them into works of art. And in a sense, that's what the sadhana of Sat Yoga is really about. And that's why one can live in the bliss of that sadhana and be constantly producing beauty as an environment, not only as words, but simply as a presence that is then able to help others process their vexations. Because one can be in a reverie state instead of in a defensive state or a counter-attacking state, but to take in the other's pain as one's own that now needs to be healed. Because everyone's pain is our own pain. There's no pain that anyone on the planet could have that is not our own. And when we recognize that we have the power of love to heal that pain through the surrender to the divine presence, then we know what our life is really about. And the path is set for us to serve as bodhisattvas, as healers, because we have been healed. And through the process of offering ourselves to be in that reverie state for others, whatever has not yet been healed in ourselves will be healed through the offering of that gift. By itself, the very act of offering that gift brings in the divine love to oneself, because one realizes in that act that one is worthy of that love and one is an instrument of it, and one becomes therefore one with it. Okay. Any comments or questions?